Hornady critical defense, triple defense, 410 for handguns. And we're going to compare that to our critical defense 40 caliber, 40 Smith & Wesson. The reason why is because part of this slug in here, it's got a slug and 2 round balls. It is a 41 caliber bullet essentially, as where 40 Smith & Wesson is 40 caliber. So kind of an interesting test to compare two things that are essentially 40 caliber, both critical defense, and kind of see what kind of performance we get. Now this is rated at 300 foot-pounds energy, 750 feet per second. That's all it says. It says it has a 41 caliber FTX slug, which is not jacketed, and 2 35 caliber round balls. Now if we reverse the math on that, of 300 foot-pounds at 750 feet per second, that actually equates to a 240 grain payload. So a lot of weight in there. However, I think that the bullet itself, the slug, is actually more like 110 grains, something like that. So it'll be an interesting comparison to see what we get versus 40 Smith & Wesson. So I'm going to go through the chronograph, see if I can get some readings with those slugs. Sometimes it's difficult, and we'll see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. And then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test, which contains 4 layers of denim, followed by 3 inches of clear ballistics to represent our pectoral muscle, followed by a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard to represent hitting ribs or sternum into more clear ballistics. Typically this takes away about 2 inches of clear ballistics penetration if the bullets expand exactly the same and they don't tumble and all that, which is rare, but when they do, when it's all the same, this is about 2 inches reduction in penetration typically. But sometimes it affects how bullets expand or don't expand. So we'll just shot with it, and we'll do a shot without it to represent like our gut shot, because this is kind of like ribs or sternum hit. And then we'll shoot from 25 yards to start with to see if I can actually get any hits on my full-size steel silhouette. And if I can, I'll probably move up to 10 yards and see what we can get. So let's get started with this test. All right, I'm about 5 yards from the target, 4 yards from the chronograph. First up, we have our 40 Smith & Wesson. If I forgot to mention it, it is a 165 grain bullet, rated at 1175 feet per second. So let's see how close we get to 1175 feet per second through my 5-inch M&P pistol. 1225. 1199. 1195, 1178, 1205. So just a little bit above rated velocity, so that's pretty good. Let's see what we get with our 410. All right, like last time I tested any type of shot shell, I took away my light sensors and everything like that, and I'm going to aim just a little bit high, probably about 5 inches high of center. So we may not get reads without our light sensor bar. And this is rated at 750 feet per second, so let's see how close we get to 750 feet per second. 723. Almost no felt recoil. And that's exactly where I aimed, where it impacted. I don't think that was read. Let me aim a little bit lower. 709, right where I'm aiming. 707. 628, that's kind of low. 646, so our velocity is starting to drop a bit. But you know, 240 grain payload, our ejection's a little bit more difficult than what it was with that Remington Ultimate Defense. So even though it's not particularly powerful, you know, it kind of stuck cases. However, our group is significantly tighter. At that distance with my Remington test, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but we had roughly a 2-foot spread, and with this we're looking at, well, in the first 2 shots, 1-inch spread. Some of those extra shots after that maybe only about a 2-inch, so definitely much tighter. So let's hit our ballistics gel block and see what we get with these different rounds. All right, through our ballistic test here, first we have our 40 Smith & Wesson through our 4 layers of denim, 3 inches of clear ballistics, 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard, and 2 more clear ballistics. So let's see what we get with our 40 Smith & Wesson. That's interesting. I've had this happen so many times. It's going out the side. I don't know why that is with our 40. Both these MMP pistols actually do it, my 9mm and my 40. So I'm gonna shoot a little more centered. I think it's just something about the rifling of these MMP pistols. It's just, it drifts everything a little bit to the left. So I'll go a little bit more centered. See what we get. All right. All right, so we're still lined up at 3 inches here. So what we're seeing here is our total damage path is at about 11 1/4, which would typically be about 13 1/4 if our bullets expand the same without our MDF. So let's try it without the MDF and see if we can, what kind of results we get with our quote-unquote gut shot. All right, no MDF, our gut shot. Let's see how our critical defense does. All right, so instead of that 11, I say 11 1/4, we're actually looking at about 14 1/2. So there's a little bit more penetration, which is probably going to indicate that we have a little less expansion. And another thing, you know, sometimes, this is something I don't talk about much, but it's hard to get an exact thing because as you see in a chronograph, sometimes you get velocities that are higher, sometimes lower. And if somebody shoots a block of clear ballistics with like 5 rounds in a row, you'll always see different penetration. So the 2-inch difference is just kind of a rule of thumb, what I've noticed over the time of testing ammo. So that's not bad though, that's really good. So let's see how our 410 does. All right, 410. I don't feel like I need to get up particularly close since we had pretty good groups, but you know, I'm about maybe 4 feet from the muzzle. So we'll see how our 410 does through our MDF. All right. So, interesting. Looks like our slug is right here. Gonna line this up. Our slug is at about 8 1/4 inches. We have 1 BB that's in there, and I'm seeing this right away. Yeah, it just fell out. We had 1 BB that was up against our clear ballistic block. It's flattened out. You see denim patterns on it. So our penetration is not particularly good through our MDF. So let's do our quote-unquote gut shot and see how it does. All right, I'm going to try to go a little bit below that for our gut shot. See how this does. Interesting. It kind of hit the same area, but it looks like I didn't hit any other channels and I didn't hit any other BBs, which is just kind of coincidental there. But our BBs are actually further than our slug. Our slug is right at 11 1/4. A little bit under penetration, but 1 BB is at about 11 3/4. The other one's damage path is at 15 inches. So if we take that overall, you know, we would rather see this go a little bit further, but it looks like our BBs deformed less when hitting a quote-unquote gut shot, and they did a little bit better than with our MDF. So let's shoot from 25 yards to start with and see what kind of performance we get. All right, 25 yards from our target. First up, I'm gonna try the 40 Smith & Wesson on my MMP here. Aim center mass, see what we get. I may have pulled that. All right, not the best I've ever seen, And those slower shots were grouping to the left consistently. I think it's just an issue with my pistol, but as far as groups go, felt recoil and ballistic performance, this is one of the best 40s I've tested. So let's try our 410 now. All right, 410 from 25 yards. I'm not even gonna move my secondary camera. I think it's gonna do all right. So I'll aim right on it, center mass, see what we get. Nothing. All right, so I'm gonna go up from 10 yards. All right, 10 yards. I generally like 10 yards because of the old Illinois State Police data that shows that at 10 yards, if you can effectively stop a threat at 10 yards, you're more likely to survive. As where your FBI statistics of like 7 yards, that's just an average, whether the agent lived or died. So let me see what kind of point shooting I might be able to get with this 40 at 10 yards. So let's see what I can do. Little malfunction. Safety went on. All right, not too bad. Now, on to our governor there. I'm just gonna shoot double action, aim on it. I'm not gonna point shoot. I just wanna see what we'll get. I pulled a second shot. Trigger pull is horrendous. I pulled it down, so it's tight enough group that you can straight up miss the same you would with a handgun. So it's definitely not a shotgun. All right, so definitely okay grippings. So about 1,000 times better than our Remington home defense buck, but this was made for a handgun. Now, what I can say about this is our recoil is really low. I tested some 45 Colts recently and had like 44 Magnum type recoil. This is really manageable. It's kind of like shooting, I don't know, like a 45 or something. It's not bad at all. And our grouping is decent enough to work. And our penetration and the gel is decent enough to work. So while this is probably still not nearly as good as our 40, it did okay. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.